Hey everyone, I'm going to introduce us to a real simple shift that's going to help students go a lot deeper in their learning, make connections between content, and think deeper and more critically. And the simple shift starts with talking a little bit about how we currently structure school. Now, whether we're in a physical classroom or whether we're actually remote, a lot of our learning is structured according to subjects. There's structured according to science, so maybe a student starts out with a lab or biology or learning about the life cycle or water cycle. That class then ends, and then let's just say that's a 45-minute class. It's a short class. Kids learn a little bit and they got to pack up their bags and then go to the next class. And let's say that's now their math class. And now we have math. And in math, maybe they're learning about algebra 2, or they're learning how to factor a polynomial or trigonometry. But they do the lesson, they finish that lesson, and now they're moving on to their language class. Okay, so this is their language class here. And in languages, perhaps they're analyzing some literature. Maybe they're reading a short novel. They're looking at Shakespeare. But they're going to do a short lesson there in languages. And notice how they've gone now from 3 different classes, a little bit disconnected in terms of content, and they've had to shift their brains each time. Let's say now that they go to their history class. And in history, perhaps they have a really animated teacher, but the kids are a little bit burnt out at this point. They're learning about maybe the ancient Egyptians and about the ancient Egyptians' burial practices and mummification. And it's exciting, but they got to pack their bags up and then go to their final class, which is music, okay? I know most of us have done this song and dance, but I really want to illustrate it on this whiteboard because it's really not the most efficient way of learning. You got 45-minute classes, and they say actually that it takes 5 minutes to get the kid's brain warmed up for learning and 5 minutes to actually reflect on that learning and get ready for the next thing they're gonna learn. And according to that neurology, that means that we only have 35 minutes for each class. So imagine you're shuffling kids 5 times a day for 35-minute periods. By the end, they're exhausted. They haven't made connections between content. Every teacher has their own set of demands. And imagine now when you compound that when it comes to remote learning and they're having to manage and do this all on their own. I mean, that's a lot to take on. But there's a simpler way that I want to introduce us to. And that simpler way, I'm going to have to move the board a little. I want it to be able to flip nicely. Here we go. So let's move this chair aside as well. So that simple way is by making connected interdisciplinary content. And let's say instead of them shuffling from class to class, you're keeping them in class longer. And the reason you could do that is because you're making deeper connections. And let's just give a topic. This topic is going to be, of course, I picked a gigantic word to fit in this inside a tiny star, but the word, in case you can't see it, is entrepreneurship. So let's say now students are taking on this real task. They're developing businesses, and they're having to develop business and integrate everything from each subject into that. So let's say, for example, their science class. Now, instead of their science looking at biology, they're going to look at the science of selling, the science of buying, a little bit of psychology, in how to be most successful in branding and developing their business. They're also going to look at, this is going to be, let's say, music, and I'm also going to put art in here as well. And in music and art, what they're going to do is look at branding, they're going to look at campaigns, they're going to look at how to structure a nice jingle that is memorable, that associates that music with whatever their brand is. And they've now suddenly made the connections between science and music and art. So those are connected, and instead of being 45-minute classes, that maybe is going to be a 90-minute class. So now they can go deeper into the content. It's revolved around these two, the subject, the science, and the music and art teacher can work together collaboratively, or they can still work separately but still associate this topic. And let's say now we have 2 more different subjects we wanted to cover. We wanted to cover math, which people say is sometimes hard to combine with other subjects. But if you give math now a context, if math is in terms of entrepreneurship, kids are then looking at their business numbers, how much money they're going to need for the product they're going to sell, what's their projected profits and losses, investments, interest rates, all those good things. They're going to look at that in math. And now we have science, music, art, math, and now maybe we put in humanities here. Okay, so humanities is going to look obviously at economics. They're going to look at a lot of the economics of businesses. Perhaps they're looking at how businesses raise funds. And in humanities, they might also look a little bit at the ethics of business as well. And so now they're combining these two subjects, humanities and math. It's all revolved around the business. Let's say that's a 90-minute class. Now you've got 2 90-minute classes as opposed to 4. They're integrated and learning something in the similar content. They're all connected to this big idea, and students are doing something that is meaningful. They're going a lot deeper into their learning than they would have if it was separated subjects. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope that it helps inspire you and how you might transition your school, your classroom, or your program to be more interconnected and interdisciplinary.